Hello and welcome to another episode of the Haskin Cast podcast. I am your host, Scott Haskin, and I am doing a brand new review or walkthrough, however you want to look at it, of Mental Sauna 3 Christmas Inflections. Since I reviewed it the very first time, this album came out in October of 2015. It was the first holiday season that I spent in Las Vegas. And it was a pretty cool time. I had won, I think it was American Music Supply, if I'm not mistaken. They used to have anyway, a drawing where you could win a bunch of gear every month or every quarter. I think it was quarterly. And I won a Tama drum set, an Ibanez 7-string electric guitar, and a 4-string bass guitar. Also, I won a CD distribution package. My buddy Dean said, you know what you should do? You know what's always popular is a Christmas album. People love Christmas albums. They are always looking for new Christmas music. And so I would do that. And I thought, you know what? That would be interesting. But let's put a twist on it instead of just doing another Christmas album. You know what would be cool? To take the Mental Sauna world and put the holiday twist on it. So Mental Sauna 1, I love the album. I'm very passionate about it. You guys heard me do my review of it this year in 2 parts. But it was really Mental Sauna 2 where I started to develop rules that I think set it apart from just an instrumental or a new age album, or a series, I should really say, because, I've done 6 of them now. But it was the second one where I really started creating rules like rolling off the attack on the percussion so that the percussion doesn't hit as heavy. It doesn't take you out of that moment of relaxation because you're getting that hard strike. Same with the piano, and we're going to hear that on this album, all over this album. You're not going to hear the hard strike of the piano, but you're going to hear the sound of the piano. And that was a very important element, one of the most important elements for making this album work. The second one, I think, for my taste, was the blend of sounds that I created to make this album happen. Once I wrote the first song and I played around with the sounds, figured out what I wanted, what would be a good crossover between Mental Sauna and that warm holiday feel. Because digital music tends to be a little bit cold. It tends to have a little bit of an edge to it. So I wanted to find a way to warm it up. I needed to find sounds that would come together in a way that would actually be warming instead of that cold, digital stuff. So that was the biggest hurdle in the very beginning, was trying to figure out what I wanted the album to sound like. Once I found that, then it was a matter of just making the songs. And it was a really easy process from there. I knew I wanted it to be fairly simple. I also knew I wanted to play live bass on it. I was getting good enough at that point where I felt I could do it. But I also wanted the bass lines to be very simple. Again, I wanted the music to be reminiscent of the traditional songs, and all the songs I picked are long in the public domain. But I wanted it to also be a little bit unique, a little bit simplified, that would fit in the Mental Sauna world. So it would be more of a version that you could use for something other than just, like gathering around and singing. That wasn't the intent. The idea was it could be the background to your present wrapping, or you're putting up decorations, or stringing popcorn. If people still do that, I would imagine somewhere people still do that. We only did it 1 year for some reason. I don't know why. It was a lot of fun. And we had, it was like tri-colored popcorn. It was, I think, blue, red, and I think green would make sense. I don't remember the green though. I think it was blue, red, and like yellow for some reason. But in any case, so that was what I wanted. I wanted something that could be the background. It could also be the background to your Christmas gathering when everybody's sitting around having dinner, opening presents. You're going to have your own music that you play when you get together to sing the carols anyway. So it wasn't intended to be used for that. It's a little gentle and delicate for that. But I really wanted it to just be atmosphere, to be something that you could have on that wouldn't be distracting, but that would fill your home and your heart with the holiday spirit. And so today it is Christmas Day that this is coming out to you. This being the new review, I will be rolling this out every year until I decide to do another review if that ever happens. But I figured, it's been 10 years. It's time to take a fresh look at it. I also added a track after the album was out, so it's not on the CD, but it is available on my BandCamp page. We're going to cover that at the end as well. Now, after this, I did go in a completely different route, I suppose, to balance this out a little bit, and did a series called Haunted Holidays, Deadly Christmas. There are 3 of those albums. They are classic Christmas songs, but instead of this wonderful, gentle, atmospheric, warming sound of Mental Sauna 3 Christmas Inflections, these are songs that, as I was told, would ruin your childhood. So if you're looking for the antithesis of this album, check out Haunted Holidays, Deadly Christmas 1, 2, and 3. Those are also narrated by me. A quick, interesting fact on those: the old man voice was a complete accident, and I just loved it and kept it, and it became, as far as I'm concerned, a beloved character by myself and at least 2 other people in the world. So we're making progress. It's a movement that's growing slowly, but one day we'll take over the Halloween/Christmas world. Sorry, Tim Burton. I'm coming for you, I guess. I don't know. Maybe not. It's hard to say, but I didn't have a Danny Elfman. I was the Danny Elfman on the project. But lots of fun. And it's fun to do these albums, and it's fun to do horror stuff too, because it's a good contrast from one to the other. I get the endorphins of both sides of it. But as a musician, it's fun to just have such a palette available to me where if I want to do something lighthearted, I could do that. If I want to do something that's dark, I can do that. And just whatever I'm in the mood for, whatever I want to do to push my boundaries. I'm not just like a rock band that does rock songs where I'm stuck in that genre. As a composer, you have creative freedom to do pretty much everything. I think that's why a lot of musicians that are in bands do side projects, because unless they're staying in the same genre and just working with different people, which is still a good idea, you tend to grow a lot by pushing your abilities, getting into things that you wouldn't do. Then you could take those techniques and inject those back into your main form of art. Now, could I inject darkness into Mental Sauna? Probably, but I really wouldn't want to. I might want something a little cooler than like this album. I want something that has a little bit of an edge to it, but still something that you could just meditate to or fall asleep to. Or some people have used it to do coding or programming. That's also very helpful too. So, whatever you're using it for is great, but I love that just wide spectrum I have to be able to explore any musical or storytelling direction that I want to. That really means a lot to me. But this album, honestly, this is one of the ones I don't spend a lot of time listening to my own music because I tend to not be able to enjoy it. I'm looking at the mix. I'm looking at the instrumentation instead of just being able to say, this is done. It's a part of history now. It is as it is, and enjoy it as a listener. A lot of times I can't do that. I end up thinking of it critically. I should have used this sound instead of that sound. If I would have done this in the mix instead of that. And then I'm not enjoying it anymore. I'm like, because now I'll always hear that. So I think about the mix on this album, and I have to say, I think this is one of the best mixes I've ever done. Granted, it's pretty easy. You don't have a lot of instrumentation, which the challenge is there is just filling in the sound field. Because if you don't have a lot of instruments, it can tend to sound a little bit thin. It's easy for one thing to throw off the balance of the song if it's not placed properly in the sound field, meaning in the left, in the right, a little forward, a little behind you, where physically that sound is coming from. And so it is a bit of a delicate balance. And sometimes you don't have enough of the right combination of elements to really be able to do it well. However, I feel very fortunate with this album that I did create what I feel is just the perfect balance. I have never been happier or more proud of a mix or master that I've done on a project than this. And the tonality of it, it takes me back to Christmas Eve. And I've been doing this series of songs called Non-Christmas Christmas Songs, where I take songs that I would listen to, especially Christmas Eve, the week leading up to Christmas, whatever, And those would be the songs that would define Christmas for that year. And then those songs would go into next year with a combination of new songs. And this now has become part of that lore. Now, I think of certain songs like Rainbow Rising, almost the entire album is a Christmas Eve album to me. Deep Purple, the third album, Christmas Eve album. I would sit there and listen to these albums while I was doing my stretches and exercise and kata and waiting for my dad to come home so we could go to my grandparents' house for Christmas Eve. And I would sit there on the floor doing my stretches. The only lights on in the room were my stereo and my string of red Christmas lights. And those songs defined that time to me. This album has easily become a part of that. Even though I've only lived in, two different apartments since I wrote this, because I wrote this in my first apartment in Green Valley when I first moved to Vegas. It's a suburb. And that was where I wrote it. It was the first year because I moved there in March. I want to say March or April. April, I think. And I think it was in June or July I won the contest. And then, by October, this album's out. So that was the first apartment. But everywhere I've lived, the apartment I moved to in Vegas and now the apartment I live in Tulsa, last year was my first Christmas in Tulsa. One of the first things I did when it was coming time for the season was get this album out and listen to it. And it just felt so at home for me. Of all the projects I've done, I love each one of them very dearly. Some songs just have more meaning musically or through memory than others. Some I feel like I broke new ground on, and that gives it a new meaning other than just enjoying the music. But this album, I have to say, is so special to me, and I could not be happier with the way it came out. I thought about remixing and remastering it, adding the new song into the fold, but you know what? I still have a ton of CDs because not a lot of people buy physical mediums anymore. But I don't really think I could improve this mix. I don't even want to try. Honestly, I don't think I could. And, there's just nothing about this that I feel when I listen to it that I'm like, you know what, though? Maybe if I did this or tried that, nothing. There is absolutely nothing. I feel like this is the absolute best mix I could ever get with this. So that being said, I don't have any anticipation of doing a future edition. You can get the bonus track on my BandCamp page. It's Auld Lang Syne, and we'll play that as the end. It's not part of the album per se, but it is available. I used the same cover artwork that was done by my dear, amazing artist and friend, spectacular human being, Kelly, at OutsideTheBox.photo. Just an absolutely amazing job that she did with the glow and the candles and the coloring, the tones, everything about it says Christmas to me. The mist, everything is just really just feels like the holidays. If I could make that scented, God, I'd love to do that. I'd take like the Yankee Candle balsam fir, maybe a little bit of cherry and strawberry, and make a scratch and sniff album cover. I think that would be the most badass thing I could do, but I don't have that ability. I don't know if that even exists or how long it would last these days because everything is made so cheaply, but seems to cost a lot. So let's get into the music, though. That is obviously the most important part of all of the things. If you don't like the music, me telling you how much this album means to me isn't going to make it any more enjoyable. So our first track, the opener of this album, is Deck the Halls. So I decided I'm going to play some longer clips. I can't remember what I did in the first review, to be honest, but let's just dig into the music. Not in a way that we're going to analyze every little bit of it, but let's just kind of relax and enjoy it. That's what this is all about. Told the story of where it all came from. Now it's time to just enjoy the songs as they are. Deck the Halls, obviously, classic Christmas song, as really most of these are. There's one that I'm still confused about, but we'll get there. This is one that I thought would be a great opener because it is one of those ones that I think just kind of defines that sound for Christmas. It's festive, it's Christmas spirit, it's getting right into the heart of it. But this version, much more relaxed and something that you can just meditate to. You may have noticed the piano. Like I talked about, you're not hearing the strike of the piano as much as you are the sound. I used a technique called rolling off the attack, where if you imagine a waveform and you think about those sharp edges that you see on a waveform sometimes, imagine taking that sharp edge and just curving it off into a dull point, where you're still getting a little bit of that sound, but you're not getting that just harsh percussive attack of a piano. And a lot of people don't know, but a piano is a percussion instrument. But in this case, what I did with it is I just smoothed it down a little bit so that you would get the tonality without that strike. And that is a huge part of the sound of this album. Also, the accompanying pad sound that I used, there's a couple different ones throughout the album, but a main one that I used, the piano and that pad are really what make the album what it is. And then you got, of course, the live bass on it, which no distortion. The only thing that would convince me to redo anything about this album, but I don't think it's going to make enough of a difference to really be worth doing, is that when I recorded the bass, I was using round wound strings, which are pretty common. That's what a lot of bass players use. The contest I won was designed for, obviously, a rock band. I mean, it was a 5-piece Tama kit. It was a 7-string guitar. 7-string guitars are not really, as far as I know, used outside of hard rock or metal. And then you got the bass guitar, which is more universal. But round wound strings are pretty common. Now, flat wound strings, they don't really look any different. I don't know how to tell them apart physically or visually, but I will say they feel different. They were a little bit hard to get used to once I switched to them. And the reason I switched to them is because they have a warmer tone. And to use them on Mental Sauna music makes a lot more sense, just because they're a little bit less harsh and more warm. Now, if I'm recording a rock song, well, I've got distortion, I've got effects I can put on there to give them that edge. I'm really not losing anything by using flat wound strings to play heavier music, but I'm certainly losing a little, just slight bit, using rock strings or more common strings to play new age music. Do I think it would make enough of a difference? No. I think what I've got here is the sound is pretty magical, and I don't pat myself on the back a lot, but for this album, I absolutely will, because it's the new Mental Sauna album, Mental Sauna 6 Warm Chill, probably falls in that category as well. But this is one album that I've been able to go back to and just get completely lost in without thinking about anything production-wise. So it's very important to me, and I'm very proud of it. So I'm generally not a boasty or braggy person, but I will say this one I'm particularly proud of. Although I'm proud of everything I do, this is just the one I don't second guess, I guess. But yeah, so that would be the only thing that if I could find enough of a difference in, I would re-record the bass and keep everything else the same. But probably not going to happen. Anyway, let's get back to the music, because that is why we're here. Another Christmas favorite. I don't recall if we used to sing this one as a carol on Christmas Eve at my grandmother's house. It would be my mom, my dad, my brother, and I, my aunt and uncle, who is my mom's sister. And then, well, they're not collectively her sister, they're individually her sister and brother-in-law. And then my grandparents on my mom's side. We would sometimes go to my dad's parents for Christmas Day in the afternoon. We would have our Christmas at home, and then sometimes we would go to their house for Christmas afternoon. Sometimes we would go earlier. Everything depended on when my uncle was going to come to town to be there, and then everything depended on when he felt like showing up. So a little less scheduled, but every year Christmas Eve, my mom's parents' house, and they had a very nice house. They had a basement, fully finished basement, and we would go upstairs in the front room to sing the Christmas carols. Everything else was done down in the basement, except for Christmas photos were taken upstairs by the tree or the fireplace, because those were both in the main living room. There's like the front room where the piano was, and then there's, which is like a formal entertainment room or entrance room or whatever. And then you'd walk past that, then you would have the dining room, and then to the right would be the kitchen, to the left would be, or straight through, I guess, would be the family room. And that's where the tree and the fireplace were. And then you go downstairs, that's where the tables were put together for dinner, and the sort of buffet style that she would have all the way around. There was a bar down there, and then another tree, and then all the presents and everything, couches, chairs, all kinds of stuff. Really cool place. But yeah, that's where all that stuff would happen. So this is another one where I can't remember if we would sing this one or not, to be honest, but certainly a very, very classic Christmas song. This is Away in a Manger. Now, you may have noticed that I am not sticking to the traditional arrangement for these songs. The way I decided to do it, to make it a little more personal and different, I suppose, was that I picked all the songs. I picked everything off the public domain list because I didn't want to deal with, copyrights and paying out and all that stuff, getting approval, delaying the project, because to do anything within copyright, you have to go to the rights holders, you have to record the song, you have to give them a copy of it, let them listen to it and approve whether you can use it or not. So you've already put in all the effort that may never make it out, and then it just sits in your project folder unheard, and all that effort and time was wasted. So I didn't want to do that. I wanted everything to be very simple, within my control, the ability to release the project when it was ready. And so I chose everything off the public domain. Now, public domain means that the song has to be at least 75 years after the death of the writer. That's basically how it works. I don't know why they picked 75 years. It makes no sense. It could have been 50. It could have been 25. It could have been 5. I mean, honestly, I don't know all the logistics behind that. I'm sure somebody will fight that one day and it'll change. But for now, that's the way it is. And so many of these songs, I didn't realize how long ago they were written. I mean, a couple hundred years or more for some of them. And that really was an eye opener. The other thing I found interesting in working with these songs was just how simple they are. Pretty much everything is within the key the song is in. There's not key changes. There's not a lot of variety to it. They're very, very simplified. And I think that might be part of the charm of them, why they become so universal, because they're not difficult to learn. They're not things that you even really need to be a musician to understand. It helps, but you don't have to be, you don't have to have a music degree to be able to break down a Christmas song. They're really, really simple. And if you understand the key, then it's really easy to figure out the entire song. So once I picked them, then that was the next step, was figuring out, okay, how was the song played? What are the right notes? And I just did it all by ear. Honestly, I can read sheet music a little bit. I could have certainly pulled up MIDI files and figured out, oh, okay, this is what they're playing, or looked at the sheet music and worked it out. But to do it on my own, I felt was a little bit better, because then I would make the arrangement how I wanted it to be. I wouldn't get stuck in a loop or a pattern. And I could just take that idea as if I had come up with the melody and develop it from there. So it doesn't stick to the traditional arrangement. And I like that. I think that makes it unique, obviously, but it also makes it a little bit unexpected, and something that, again, you could just get lost in. You can't predict where it's going. So just shut your mind off and enjoy the ride. That's what it's all about. But yeah, Way in a Manger is another one that very classic Christmas song. Another one, and you might think that this would be a surprise. I kind of struggled with the idea of putting this one on the album until I sat down and figured out how to put the Mental Sauna vibe into this song. In fact, that was the biggest challenge, I would say. Once I found the sound, the biggest challenge was then taking these songs, some that are upbeat, like Deck the Halls, or the one that I'm about to play, Jingle Bells, and say, okay, Jingle Bells is really festive. It's up tempo. How do you take that and just put that into the Mental Sauna world? Well, you figure out how the song goes, you slow it down, and you just feel it out. And that's really what I did for these songs. And I think that's part of the magic of it all, is not being pretentious, not worrying about tradition, not worrying about the rules of music. Just put out something that's elegant sounding, simple, and something that you can just drift away with. Remember, the idea of Mental Sauna is to be a bubble bath for your mind. So it's not about thinking about these songs too much. It's not about analyzing them. It's about just shutting your mind off and letting them take you away and put you in that holiday spirit. That's the whole idea. For the other albums, it's, less holiday and just taking you away and putting you in a wonderful, warm place. But for this album, obviously, we have a specific tone in mind. So that will bring us to Jingle Bells. Here's a couple minutes of that one. remember at first it sounded a little bit too dark for my taste until I added that pad sound, and then it was like, okay, now I'm feeling it. But at first it was slowed down. It's if you know the melody and you know the song and you're thinking about the version that you're familiar with, and then you hear it slowed down, it sounded a little bit dark for me. But like I said, once I added that pad, everything just kind of fell into place. And that was one that I felt especially proud of because it was one that I wasn't sure about. But once I found that right tone and got it to work, I was like, yeah, I'm really happy with this. The challenge for writing and then again mixing and mastering the album was it's so relaxing to me that I was falling asleep writing it because I'm holding chords sometimes for quite some time, and then listening back to it to make sure I'm happy with everything, then going to mix it and trying to pay attention to everything. But man, it's so relaxing that I was just like, I was happy that I was falling asleep though, and that I was just completely getting lost in the music and not being able to do the job because that meant it was accomplishing the goal I wanted it to accomplish. As the creator, it's very challenging for that reason to do these. Even with Mental Sauna 6, Warm Chill, where I've got beats and stuff in there that I created, it posed the same exact challenge. So it was a very fascinating process to do each one of these albums. This one in particular was because Mental Sauna 1 and 2 didn't really do that to me to the extent that I might have thought they would. A little bit, but nowhere near as much as this album did. So that was an interesting part of the journey. Now we're going to move to "O Come All Ye Faithful," another classic tune. Yeah, another one of my favorites. It's funny. I mean, I pick songs off of the public domain list, but every one of them, every time I hear them or I was working on them, I'm like, yeah, this is one of my favorite Christmas songs. Absolutely love it. And there's so many great versions of these songs out there. Everything from, Bing Crosby to Frank Sinatra to Dolly Parton. I mean, who hasn't done some Christmas music of some point or another? There's so much good stuff out there to listen to. Some of the real classic stuff like Bing Crosby. I mean, if I want to be transported back to my childhood, Bing Crosby right off the bat, no doubt about it. Some great stuff out there. But that's another one that I absolutely love. And now we're going to move to "Joy to the World." I'm not a religious person. I don't follow Christmas out of faith or love for Jesus or anything like that. It's the holiday spirit, the atmosphere. Growing up in a place where we had, the traditional Christmas snow every year. And in fact, I remember 2 years specifically. Once my dad came home from work and parked in front of the house because we had the yard and then the sidewalk. And then there was that little strip of government property that we were still responsible for mowing for some reason. And he parked there and it was a little bit muddy. And so we got stuck and we had to put something or other under the tire to get out. Then there was another year where I think he parked in front of the house, but we took the car that was backed into the driveway and the whole driveway wasn't paved, only the front part was. And car got stuck in the mud. And, as a kid, you're like, we're never going to make it to grandma's. We're never going to get out of this. This is going to be forever. And, the ridiculous things that you think when you're so desperately looking forward to fun, right? And, but we made it both times, not a big deal, but I do remember that. And, it's that anticipation, the getting together, for some reason on holidays like Christmas, Thanksgiving, I would say isn't so much. Thanksgiving is a lot of talk, a lot of football, a lot of people just talking about, whatever they're interested in. Christmas seems to be a little less, at least in my family, it was. I don't remember there being a lot of political discussions or discussions about what was going on in the world or just casual, hey, this fun thing happened, or, we did this, or we want to do this coming year and stuff like that, but no serious talk about anything. And I think that was a big attraction to Christmas for me. And boy, that's something that if we can just go one day this year and put everything on hold would be awesome. But it's just the whole environment, the whole going to the mall and seeing it decorated for Christmas, seeing people out shopping and getting excited about getting their gifts for people and the parties they're going to go to and all these things. For me, I don't do anything for Christmas. I don't really do anything to celebrate it. I do put up a tree every year only because of my White Snake Christmas tree skirt from the album Trouble. Some independent person had posted it on Amazon for, I think like $25 or $40 or something. And I thought, oh, that would be so cool to get for, White Snake collection, even though really all I have is the records. But I thought that would be really cool to get. And I got it. And I'm like, well, now I got to get a tree. So I got it a month or so after Christmas. And then the next year I was like, well, I got to get a tree. If I'm going to have a Christmas tree skirt, I might as well get a tree. So I got a white folding tree and I got some purple ornaments that look really good on the white tree. Comes with the lights and everything. So every year you just put it together. There's 3 sections to the Christmas lights. So you got to plug those in, one for each section so that you can take them apart and store them. And then the purple bulbs, which is really cool. And that's pretty much it. That's my entire Christmas celebration. But I will say I loved going to the mall, especially the mall, always well decorated for the holidays. Even last October when I left Vegas, I had rented a car for a day because at that point, my car was questionable as far as driving goes. It would actually, the Christmas Eve of 2023 would be the last day I would drive my own car. After that, it just sat there until I sold it in April, never to drive it again. And, but it was a 2003, so I can't explain. I can't complain. I could explain. I can't complain. And I just got tired of dumping money into it. It was pointless. Every time I fixed something on it, then 3 days later, the check engine light would go on. I'm like, I don't even drive anywhere anymore, really, except to the strip and the grocery store. So I can walk to the grocery store. I can Uber to the strip. So why am I was spending more money in insurance than I would be on Ubers and walking to the store. So I sold it. And it's been now a couple years since I've had a car. And I've been doing absolutely fine that way. But I love how the mall was decorated. So when I had my rental car, the week before I left, just to, take stuff to Goodwill, get some errands done and just do it all easily in one day, I rented a car. I went to the mall because I wanted to go to the Yankee Candle store and stock up for my tart warmer. And man, it was absolutely amazing seeing them all already decorated for Christmas in October. They already had Santa Claus there. I mean, there was nobody talking to him. There was nobody in line, and just one poor guy sitting in a chair all by himself, waiting for nothing to happen. I mean, like I didn't understand why this was happening so early. Nobody's ready for Christmas yet. I understand everybody wants to be the first to capitalize on it financially. Christmas really starts in August in the retail stores, which I really think we just need to stop all of that, to be honest. Let's go back to really making it exciting again, because by the time that Christmas rolls around, most people are just tired of it. They don't have the excitement. They got their shopping done in September. They're not feeling Christmas anymore. And that's a real shame. The one nice thing about living here is last year was the first Christmas where we had snow on the ground, which was really cool for me, having grown up in Michigan. So that was a nice thing, was the weather, the temperatures, because yes, it did get cold in Vegas, and windy. Windy was a big factor for that. But here it was just like the air was just like that icy air I was used to from childhood. The smell of snow in the air. I don't know how to explain it if you've never experienced it. I don't know how to get you there. I'm sorry. I would just say go somewhere that has snow for Christmas and you'll understand. There's something about, I don't know if it's people burning certain kinds of wood in their fireplaces or some sort of outdoor grilling or something that people do, but there's a smell that sometimes you can catch in the air that it's just amazing. And it's the strong scent of something being burned, like not unpleasant. It's not a meat smell, so I'm thinking it's got to be wood. But anyway, sometimes you get to smell that. And that, again, reminds me of my childhood, because I would smell that sometimes on my walks to the elementary school. And so there's so many elements that come together. But I'm not a religious person, but I absolutely love, love, love the Christmas season, if that makes any sense. I think there's a lot of people that probably feel that way. A lot of people that get together on Christmas without it having to be any religious experience, people that just use it to get together, even do gifts exchange without having to be the celebration of the birth of Jesus. And who cares? As long as you're enjoying it, as long as you're celebrating, you're putting good times into the world, you're giving great memories, you're holding great memories for yourself, you're sharing in times with people that you care about. Nothing wrong with that at all. And I have had many, many wonderful Christmases with friends and family over the years. Now I'm pretty much by myself, so I really don't do anything for it, but I do enjoy the gentle glow of my Christmas tree. I do enjoy watching Christmas movies. I'm huge on that. Even though they're the most ridiculously cheesy, as soon as you know who the characters are, you know exactly what's going to happen to them. It's just who's playing them and what the dialogue is, not even the script, because the script is almost the same every story, especially like Hallmark movies. But it's, again, just like that atmosphere, watching other people going around, getting gifts, getting ready for parties, decorating, all those things. Just so much fun. And that is, I would suppose, the one time I do get very, very nostalgic for my childhood. There's other random moments, like, in the fall, certain temperatures, certain cloud covers, certain atmospheres, or certain scents will bring me back to certain times. And, those in those moments, you do get a little homesick, you get a little nostalgic for certain things. But really, like, just watching the movies, like, Christmas is probably the thing that gives me the most overall nostalgia more than anything else. And I absolutely could not love the season more. I would not want two Christmases, though. I think it's fine to wait all year. Instead, like, I don't think a summer Christmas would be great. Halloween, however, give me an April Halloween and I'll be there. I think we need two Halloweens every year. I would be all about that. Anyway, let's get back to some music now. Why don't we? So that was Joy to the World. Now let's move on to another classic song, Old Little Town of Bethlehem. nice and gentle. That's exactly what I wanted for this album. I love the tones, the gentle performance, the atmosphere. I can't believe how much I can love my own work. I'm normally so judgmental of myself. I'm really happy when it's done. It's like, okay, I can equate it to buying Christmas presents, because I'd work really hard to figure out what I wanted to buy somebody. And I would save up, I would go get it, I would wrap it, and then I would spend the month or so between the time of getting it and the time that they were going to receive it, and just sit there and guess that they're going to hate it. They're going to think I don't know them, that I didn't really care about them, that I just bought some, oh, they'll probably like this kind of gift. No matter how much thought I felt I put into it, I just felt like it was the wrong choice, no matter what. But this is after being so sure it was the right thing, right? So Christmas gift giving was a reasonably pleasant / unpleasant experience for me. And then after they would get the gift and they'd be like, oh, that's so nice. Yeah, I've wanted this for a long time, or, whatever. I'd be, oh, they're just being nice. Not that they weren't being genuine, but that, lack of my own confidence, I suppose, would make me second guess their words and think that they just didn't want to hurt my feelings. So yeah, I would suppose more of an unpleasant experience. Like the pleasant part came from getting it, and then everything else after that was unpleasant. A moment of pleasantness when they opened it, and then more unpleasantness as I second guessed their words. So it kind of reminds me of the music. Like I love writing it. I love creating the music. Then I mix it. I don't really enjoy mixing music anymore. It's not that I can't do it. It's not that I don't have my methods for it. And it's it can be simple. There's some songs that are incredibly challenging, others that I would think would be challenging and sometimes aren't, or turn out to be less challenging than I think. But the biggest thing to me is just second guessing it. I'm not a hugely successful artist. I've never made rent selling music, not once. And 95% of artists haven't. But I enjoy it while I'm writing it. I enjoy it while I'm producing it. When I'm mixing the song, I still love it. And then after I put it out there, I'm like, oh, I can't wait until people, you know what? They're probably not going to like this. They're probably not going to think it's great. And there's very little I can look back on thinking I've actually connected with something that people are likely to enjoy. And this has nothing to do with the quality of the music I put out there. This has to do with my lack of confidence that I think I'm creating something that people will like. So it is a little bit difficult when it comes to that. But that's part of why I love this album so much, is because this is the one album I don't even think about that. It's an album that I feel like everybody could have on in the background of their Christmas party, or while they're decorating, or, baking cookies, or whatever. I feel like it's just a very universal album that anybody could love. And that really makes me happy. So while I'm proud of the music, there's just a different level of accomplishment with this album that I have not reached with anything else. And that is something that's part of why I'm so proud of it. But anyway, enough of me babbling. Let's get back to some music. Now we're going to go to one of my favorite Christmas songs that I don't really remember hearing with Christmas. I associate it with Christmas. It's in Christmas movies and stuff. I don't really remember hearing it a lot as a kid outside of that. There was a version of it by Christopher Parkening on the soundtrack for the movie The Island, which I have covered. Love that soundtrack from start to finish. In fact, you guys, oh my God, a new version of that soundtrack has been released, along with a new version of the soundtrack for Gladiator, two of my all-time favorite soundtracks. The complete soundtracks from the films, not just selected parts that made it onto the release, but the complete film scores. I cannot wait to get these. I may even have them by the time this episode airs. I don't know. That's 3 months from now. I'm so unbelievably excited about this. I really am. I cannot even tell you. Now, Hans Hans Zimmer did say that there's about another 2 hours of music he's written for the film that no one will ever hear, did not make it into the film. So obviously none of that will be included. But my God, I'm so excited. Now, The Island was never released on vinyl, so I only have the CD copy of that. I also have an expanded copy of that was an unauthorized release, but there's some extra great stuff on that. So I'm assuming that some of those will be on there as their alternate takes, but I think that they're also parts that were used in different scenes, not necessarily alternate versions, but when you're doing film score, you have a part that plays here, and because that becomes a theme for something, you do another version of it or another segment of it later on in the film because they tie together. So I'm so super excited to hear both of these. Gladiator, I do have on a double vinyl 180 gram pressing. It is amazing. The package of it that they put together, so stunning. The music, unbelievably incredible. So happy to have these in my collection. I wish The Island was on vinyl. No such luck. These new releases are CD only because of the length of them. I don't care. I'll take it. I will absolutely take it. So anyway, that being said, that's where I came into connection really with this song, Jesu, Joy of Man's Desiring. Absolutely beautiful song. Let's check it out. Now, I don't think I've been too shy in saying that I'm pretty passionate about this project, not in the least. But this is one of those songs that when I think about this album, I'm like, well, I really only have time to listen to a song. Which one do I want to listen to? This is one of the ones that I go to. This is one of my favorites. It's light and airy. It just has an elegance to it that I think it's just so designed for this style of music, even though it is a little bit slower than most of the versions that you will hear. But the melody just lends itself beautifully to the Mental Sauna world. So it's one that I go back to a lot when I only have time to listen to a song or two. And then I'm like, I don't care. I need to hear another one. I need to hear another one. Then before you know it, I'm 30 minutes late and I've listened to the entire album. But definitely a favorite of mine, and just a beautiful song in general, you know. Now we're going to go to our next one. This is another one that very classic Christmas song. Not everyone can sing it because it takes a certain gentleness to it, but this is "O Holy Night." There are certainly some beautiful versions of this song out there. I mean, if you're the right vocalist, and especially if you think back to the crooners, there are some amazing versions of this song out there. But I really enjoy this one. It was a lot of fun to put together, and it took some patience, though. I mean, just to be able to sustain some of these long chords and things, some of these songs really did take some patience to record and then mix. But I'm so glad I did this album. And honestly, I was thinking about it. I don't know that the Haunted Holidays series would have been done had I not done this one first, because I got comfortable not worrying about, where songs came from, not worrying about being stuck to arrangements, because really a lot of the songs on Haunted Holidays hint at the melody. They don't really play into the arrangement of the song that much. They just give you the musically a little bit of familiarity, lyrically a twist on the general story of it. Some I completely rewrote, some I just twisted. But yeah, I don't think those would have happened had I not done this album. So another thing I owe to this production, and so grateful that I pursued this idea, because I think, regardless of how many copies I've sold or how many people have listened to it, I really feel an amazing sense of accomplishment with this project. And it's weird to pat myself on the back this much, but it's honest, it's genuine. I rarely do that. I'm like, hey, you know what? I wrote a new album. I hope you guys like it. If you don't, that's okay. Like, I just give people an out before they've even heard it. It's just ridiculous how I and so many other artists were afraid to expose that side of us, but yet at the same time, we can't not do it. It's easy to not release anything, to just be so afraid of what the response is going to be. And that's okay. I understand that. But honestly, like, there's always going to be somebody that will like it if they connect with it. There's always going to be somebody that won't like it when they connect with it. So as I always say, just put it out there and maybe some good will come of it. That's really about it. And I've gotten some very positive feedback on this album. People have enjoyed it. So that makes me very happy. Speaking of things that make me happy, we're going to move on to our next song now. This is God Rest Ye Merry Gentlemen. Yeah, I love that extra synth sound in there. Just that extra layer gives this song a little bit of a push, I guess, on this album. It's just got something else, that some of the other songs don't. I mean, I wanted to make everything individual, and I'm not putting this one above the other ones by any means, but it does have something that I experimented with and was really happy with the sound, so I left it in there. I didn't really want to necessarily make every song this way, but I thought there was a nice layer that I found that worked really well with this particular melody. And yeah, just another smile every time I hear this album. Just it honestly just makes me so happy, and I hope that the music makes you guys happy too, that you'll want to check out the album in its entirety. Links are in the show notes. Obviously, you can also go to my website, www.scotthaskin.com. It's also on Amazon, iTunes, all the places that you can buy music. So if you're interested in the album, check it out. I also do have CDs available. So if you want one of those, reach out to me and let me know. I would love to hear from you. We're going to move on to our next song now. This is The First Noel. This, I would argue, is probably the one that I found the most difficulty with, at least as far as I remember. Just finding the right tempo really was the key. I think I found a balance between, because it just, if you slow it down anymore, it begins to sound a little too haunting for some reason. I don't know exactly why, but it just didn't really work for me. So I kept the tempo here because I think this is the right balance. It's probably I'd have to double check, but probably the highest tempo on the album, if I'm not mistaken. Maybe not, but it's certainly up there. But yeah, it just feels a little faster than the rest of the songs. But I think the melody is really beautiful on this one, and it's a fun song. I do remember singing this one with Christmas carols with my family, among many other songs that we used to sing. And I'm just like, can we just be done with this? I don't want to be singing. I want to go open presents. I don't know why I just sounded like an old concert promoter, but come on, kids, let's get to the stage. But yeah, this is one of the ones that definitely brings me back to my childhood and sitting in the front room with my aunt at the piano and, trying to remember lyrics because we didn't have a copy of the music for everybody to sing along to. So you just kind of had to know the songs. And Christmas would be the only time I listened to them. So you're like trying to fumble around and remember. And fortunately, everybody else knew them enough where I could stumble through them in my earlier years. But yeah, always a challenge. Always a challenge. Why would you know all the lyrics to a song that you only hear one time a year? But yet sometimes we do, don't we? The human mind is a pretty amazing thing. You know what else is amazing is just how much I love this album. I feel like I'm really being braggy, but I don't feel braggy at the same time. It's a very weird thing for me. Now we're going to go to another song. This one is "Hark the Herald Angels Sing." So I went with a little bit different of a tone on this one, experimented with a few different sounds, and this was the one that made me the happiest. It's again, something that's a little special for this song, sets it apart from the rest, but everything in this, collection is all within the vein of Mental Sauna, all within a certain consistency within the tones that are used. But there's, little things I put in the songs that make some of them a little bit unique. This was a fun one. I really enjoyed doing this one. It's a great song. Musically, it's really beautiful. If you get a good choral section doing it, it can be just absolutely gorgeous, especially a good chorus in a cathedral setting where you've got that high ceiling and just that room tone can be pretty amazing. Another favorite Christmas song for sure. Now we get to the song that even all these years later, I'm still perplexed by. I don't remember hearing the song as a kid. I just don't remember it. I cannot think of a reference for it at all. I remember hearing it as an adult and thinking it sounded familiar, but cannot place any tie to this song whatsoever. But I absolutely love it. It turned into one of my favorite pieces on the album. I had to actually learn it from scratch because when I was looking at the titles, I'm like, I don't know what that is. So I wrote it down. And when I listened to it, I'm like, oh yeah, I think that'll work great. What the hell is this song? Had no idea. But this is It Came Upon a Midnight Clear. Now there is just a lovely slate swirl feel to one of the pad layers I put on this one. I just love that. It's very gentle, barely noticeable, honestly. It's like you feel it more than you hear it, but I really like that about this. As a complete contrast, I'm just going to throw this out there for you fans of cheesy Christmas movies. There's one called Christmas Crush, but it's also called Holiday High School Reunion, because of course, when are you going to have your high school reunion? Christmas, because you're not busy enough during the holiday season. So of course you're going to throw together a high school reunion. You're going to have Christmas performances by your pep team and all that. It's so cheesy, but it's a great movie. And one of the things that makes it great is the music. The music is really good in it. That's actually why I watched it in the first place. There was a trailer that came on and they were doing a very interesting version of this song. And I thought, well, I want to check this out. And then I just ended up watching the whole movie to see where it was. But they put on a couple of really cheesy performances. The thing that gets me about these movies is that the music really takes you out of the movie because you can tell it's very pre-recorded. It doesn't feel at all like it's happening in the room. It's very dry, padded studio recording and just has no atmosphere added into it. They shut off the movie soundtrack to play the song, and it just takes you right out of that. How no one fixes that, I have no idea. But there's a really cool version of this that the girls do in one of the performances, and I actually really like it. There's definitely some cool music in there. So if you want to check that out, Christmas Crush or High School Holiday Reunion, whichever one you like. Rachel Boston, I think, is the lead character in that. She's the one that has the crush. And I mean, it is every high school reunion and Christmas trope all thrown into one movie. But it's, if you just take it as it is, it's kind of lighthearted. Harry Hamlin's even in it as the high school principal. Life is interesting. Anyway, it's something to check out if you want something in performance style of this song. But I absolutely love this song. I really wish I knew where my connection to the song started, because it's absolutely beautiful. It's interesting because since I can't figure out why I'm connecting it to my childhood, it's fascinating to me that whenever I hear it, it immediately takes me back to my childhood. The only thing I've been able to pinpoint, and this is it's possible, but it also feels like a stretch just because there is nothing else. But I'm immediately picturing the entranceway to my grandparents' house. So when we would go over for Christmas Eve, of course, they've got classic Christmas music playing in the house, right? And you walk in and there's the front room, and you have like a banister that separates the room from the entrance hallway. So I'm making this sound like a grand house. It really wasn't that big, but it did have two separate, like a living room and a family room. So you go in, and the entranceway, you just go straight, and that will lead you towards, like, you go left to the bedrooms or right to the dining room and kitchen, and past that to the living room, or you turn left, and you could go on either side of the banister, and then there would be like the formal front room. And for some reason, when I hear this song, even my own version of it, I'm immediately picturing standing in that entranceway. I picture walking in towards the left and looking at the piano. So the only thing I can think of that ties this song to my childhood is that it might have been playing in their house. I suppose that's just as likely as anything else, since I can't tie it to something, but I do have a specific memory. I'm not hearing that song when I see the memory. I see the memory when I hear the song. There's a bit of a difference there. So I don't know where exactly it comes from, but I would say that's a big possibility. But I don't remember this song like in the pop culture. I don't remember it in Christmas movies. I don't specifically remember it anywhere. But when I heard it later on in life, I'm like, oh, that's such a beautiful song. Why is this familiar? I don't know the song. So this, of all the songs, this one's a bit of a mystery. Absolutely thrilled that it was on the public domain list. Otherwise, I don't know when I would have come into contact with it. If it was just from the movie, probably wouldn't have paid that much attention to it. Probably just would have said, oh, that's a cool song, because it has a completely more like show tune feel to it than, the emotional side of the song, which is an absolutely beautiful song. So we're going to move on. We've only got a couple left. We've got 3 left, and then the bonus track. This one is called We Three Kings. well, what is holiday music without a little violin now and then? Really worked hard to create the right atmosphere for the violin. That was a big challenge. So much of what I tried just didn't seem to fit it wasn't giving me the right atmosphere, and it took a while. I don't remember exactly how I ended up doing it, but I got there. And at the end of the day, that's the most important part. And I really like this, the contrast of the piano. Also, there's just a little tingly piano in there as well that's played very gently, that was different. That just came out of jamming around with the melody of the song. And then I just felt like it needs something else here. What is it? I wasn't feeling it. So I was just playing around and then came up with that. I'm like, boom, that's it. And then put it into the song. So a lot of fun. I had a great had a great time with this one. Also, I did another version of this song, a Campfire version, where I played drums on it. Bruce Vaught played guitar, acoustic guitar, and Taryn Emmert did the vocals on it. You can find that on my website in singles, and you can also find that on my BandCamp page. There is a link to the BandCamp single on the website as well, but the link will be in the show notes to the BandCamp page, so you can see it there. They did a great job on it, exactly what I wanted, and it came out great. Really different. I got the idea from a rhythm, and I thought, well, I really want to do something with this. I think this is going to be a lot of fun, and they showed up for me, and they did the job, and they both did a very, very good job. So that is out there for you guys to check out as well. But you know what? Let's get back to the album. We've only got two songs left, or two songs left. One is the bonus track. I want to point out that there was going to be the song Dance of the Sugar Plum Fairy on this album, one of my favorite Christmas songs. In fact, it is the song that to me defined the start of Christmas. Whenever I would go to the mall, to the Hallmark store, I don't know how many people are even going to know what that is anymore, because malls are pretty rare, and I don't know how many of them still have Hallmark stores, to be honest. But Hallmark is known for greeting cards, but also collectibles. And you would go into Hallmark stores in the mall, and they were actually pretty decent size, had a lot of stuff crammed in there. And they had cards for all occasions. They had knickknacks, all kinds of things, little gift ideas, stocking stuffers, that kind of thing. But like some expensive little like statues and stuff. It was a really interesting variety of product. But when I would go to get my box of Christmas cards for the year, because I used to buy like everybody an individual Christmas card, but they got so expensive where I was like, well, I could get you a card or I could get you a gift. Which one would you like? Because I'm going to guess it's probably the gift. The card you're going to read, you're going to go, oh, that was really sweet, or that's funny. And it's going to end up in a box until you're like, I don't need this anymore, and you throw it out. I digitize all mine now, because that way I don't have to keep them, but I also have the ability to look at them anytime I like. I still have the box. I haven't done it yet. I've done some of them, but I think that's a really cool way to not have the physical stuff anymore. And then you can recycle them, which is great. But anyway, so they had, you would go get a box of cards. You would get like one set of cards or maybe two set of cards. And they're somewhat generic. They would have a phrase on them, a picture on them or whatever. And you would get an envelope in the card, maybe a little sticker to seal it, and or a ribbon to tie around it. And then you would sit down and write everybody you wanted a Christmas card. But invariably, every year when I would go to the Hallmark store to get the box of cards, they would play Dance of the Sugar Plum Fairy. So the first song that I wrote down that I wanted to do on this album was Dance of the Sugar Plum Fairy. I looked it up on the public domain. It was available. Great. Of course it is. It should be. But then I ran into a problem. If you slow it down, it is creepy. I mean, it's absolutely creepy, and I could not find a way to make it work. But what I did was I hung on to it because I figured someday I'll find something to do with this. That's where the idea for Haunted Holidays came from. And so I used that on Haunted Holidays. And I changed it to Dance of the Sugared Plum Fairy, a little play on words there. But I did not include it on this album as much as I wanted to, because I could not find a way to make it work with the kind of warmth and elegance that the rest of these songs have, I feel. And so it didn't happen, but something good still yielded from that effort. So I don't feel bad about that. But the last track on the album, and my friend Eva Bukovinsky plays the duduk very beautifully on this. I talked to her about doing the song, It's her main instrument, and she's very good at it. I love this instrument. I heard it first. I'm sure I'd heard it before, but I'd heard it mainly in Gladiator. There's Duke of the North would be a perfect example of how that song or how the instrument was used in the soundtrack. And I talked earlier about how much I love Gladiator. The instrument itself is just very beautiful, and I thought, I think I can do something with that on this album. So what I did is I just left her spaces to fill in. I didn't tell her what to play. I just said, I want you to feel anywhere in the song you want to play, but I've left you here and here specifically for you. If you're not feeling it, don't play there. Just let the music go on. We don't have to put something there, but those are sections I kind of designed for you to play. And then anywhere else that you're feeling it, go ahead and play. If I listen to it and I don't like it, then I'll just drop it out of those parts. So it was a total collaboration. I wanted to give her as much license as possible to feel the song the way that she felt it. So she sent me the track, and it was perfect, absolutely perfect. I didn't change anything. I mixed it in. I just put a little bit of reverb on it, and that was it, because I told her I want it dry. Like, let me put the reverb on it that will blend it into the world of the song, because if you use a different reverb, it might not fit in, and then I'm stuck with whatever you gave me. I need the raw track, so then I can, as the engineer, can find the right reverb to place it within the sound field of the song. The whole thing took like 5 minutes for me to do that. It was absolutely perfect. She did a beautiful job. Her emotion on this is absolutely wonderful, and I could not have asked for a better feeling performance. So thank you, Eva. Here is Silent Night. Yeah, you can hear her beautiful playing in there. I mean, the instrument is just so gorgeous and gentle and emotional, very similar to a violin, but I love the way it blended into this song, and she did such a great job with it. And I thought, a long fade out on this song with the percussion kind of fading into the distance would be a great way to end the album. And that's why I chose this one for last. Plus, I think Silent Night is just a good ender for a Christmas album. It sends everybody out with warmth and just calm and a feeling of completeness. And I don't know, there's just something about this song that really works for that, for me anyway. But that wasn't all. Of course, I did the bonus track the next year. I wanted to do it as a charity single, but I wasn't able to make that happen. I tried, and was met with a lot of resistance for some reason. I don't know why, but I thought, you know what, fine. If that's not the route it's meant to be, I'm not going to waste any more time on it. But I do think it's worth putting out. I think people that like this album will like this version of it. And, what the hell? Why not put it out there? So I have links to that in the show notes. I'm going to play it here for you at the end. I'm just going to play the song in its entirety and let that end the show so you can check it out in full. And then if you look at the show notes, there are links to videos that I created for some of these songs, mostly, or maybe all of them are. I'd have to check. I mean, since I wrote it in Vegas, I don't think I did a new video for this album last year with the winter footage from here, because I was doing for Mental Sauna 6, the newest album. But so there's footage from a lot from the Bellagio Conservatory, because they do beautiful Christmas displays every year. So I took a lot of footage from that. I also have footage from the Ethel M's chocolate factory there in Green Valley, the garden that they have, which is an unbelievable Christmas display. I used to go there every year, and I would walk through the display, get a hot chocolate afterwards that was way too sweet and not as bad as Starbucks, but that would be nice for my incredibly short drive home. The funny thing was, I didn't go there for, I think, the first year I lived there, because I didn't know how close I was to it. It was literally 5 minutes away. I mean, how ridiculous is that? I think I was at the stoplight to turn into it longer than I was getting there from my apartment. Could have walked there if I wanted to. I wouldn't, but I could have. So yeah, once I found that out, then I went every year. A wonderful occasion. The last year I was there, they had a skating rink. I didn't go skating, but certainly really appreciated the atmosphere. It was a high draw. It was hard to get footage without getting a lot of people in it. Just trying to really zoom in and focus on certain things, but it was great. I mean, absolutely great. And then just, other random footage that I would get that had a little bit of a Christmas feel to it. But the majority of it, I would say, comes from those two things, from the Bellagio and that. In fact, I've still got footage I haven't used. So there's a good chance there will be more down the road, whether it's for this album or other Christmas stuff I may do, or just non-Christmas stuff, just stuff that the video fits. I don't know. We'll see. A lot of room to go. In fact, I could use it for some of the Haunted Holidays stuff, which I think I may have already as well. I don't remember. It's been a while. But all those links are in the show notes, guys. Thank you so much for joining me. I hope that you're having a wonderful holiday season. If you're listening to this on Christmas and you celebrate in any way, shape, or form, Merry Christmas to you. Happy holidays to everyone else. Hope you're having a great day, whatever it is, depending on what day it is on the year that you're listening to this. The whole thing, though, is just about, letting go of all the problems, just being together, being warm, being happy, doing things with people that you care about, just letting that spirit warm your heart. And, if we can have a day without fighting about stupid shit that doesn't matter, then that, I don't care what the premise of the holiday is, that is a beautiful day to me. Wrap that in some snow and tinsel and sparkling lights, and it's even better. So have a Christmas cheer. I hope you guys are enjoying it. We'll see you in the next episode. And now, to play it out, here is the entirety of my version of Auld Lang Syne. Cheers.